Hello, everyone. I tried doing this before, but I had an issue with my Bluetooth connection and the microphone that I'm using. And there was like a 10-minute segment of it that there was no audio recorded. So I'm going to do this again, and hopefully I cover everything. Just as it says, layers of awakening. And what I've done is I've thought about the last 19, pushing 20 years since I woke up, and thought to myself, what were the major layers for me? And to whatever degree it is that I am awake now and conscious and aware, see all the layers of the beast system, matrix, and have, yada, yada, yada. When I look back, these are the major layers of awakening. And you can use them as a gauge to determine how far down the road somebody's gone in awakening. Now, subversive misinformation. When you understand, well, I guess I should create that jump. Yep. It's through every layer. It's through every layer of everything, from religion to spirituality, societally, through television, through Hollywood, through the school systems, through government. It's through fucking everything. Therefore, at every layer, you're going to be met with copious amounts of subversive misinformation that is designed to be exactly what it implies, what it suggests, designed to confuse you, prevent you from finding the truth, running yourself in a circle, chasing your tail. And I've been doing a lot with the software lately, and I think it's a better visual representation for the newly awakened to really get a sense of what awakening truly entails. From the awakening of consciousness, and that usually is where it begins. Something happens, generally speaking. Well, you can come from one of three, potentially four general categories of things. And unless or until somebody's gone through it to a sufficient degree to crack them open, there's any number of life-altering events. People can pass away, jobs can go away, just things can just change that, well, can shatter your paradigm, can cause you to ask questions, that kind of shit. It's the stuff you have no control over, and it usually has a tendency of taking your legs out from underneath you, or damn near, that kind of shit. Pain and suffering, that's another one. Dark nights of the soul, deep pain and suffering, shit like that. And then the other one that you don't necessarily expect, but there are those out there that have actually chosen to educate themselves of their own free will for whatever reason they were motivated to. And in doing so, you broaden your knowledge base. That's a fact, Jack. You start self-educating, you start broadening your awareness, you start knowing more things. The more you know, the more you have the ability to see. The more things that you see make sense to you in a way that they did not before. The more you see, the more you know, the more your consciousness, the more your awareness starts to expand, your consciousness tends to go with it. And then you now begin to see with a clarity that you never have, because you've worked for those eyes to see through your purposeful efforts to self-educate. So just through that process alone cracks the consciousness, creates the awakening. And then once you start to really figure shit out, you start to realize, look at it all. Look at it all. For those who are awake to it, when you consider money system, government and politics, fucking Jews, religion, society, you start tying all that in, spirituality, what there is for all of us. I should tie self and beliefs together because, well, clearly they're of you. I guess you have to begin this journey here before beliefs really start. Who the fuck knows? I guess it could go on the inverse for somebody else where they started with their beliefs. And when you start looking at the things that are at each layer, why would you have cognitive dissonance? Well, when your beliefs get shattered, when your paradigm gets shattered, if you go through a process of analyzing your beliefs, you can have your beliefs begin to change. That which you believed before may not be true. If you go through a process of self-education, all of a sudden now you've got knowledge that you didn't have before, and you had a belief that now challenges that. You can have cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance can fuck you up. You get enough conflicting beliefs, enough cognitive dissonance. That's what's called the paradigm shattering moment. That's what's called those paradigm shattering experiences, which can fall into the category of one of those sources. Those paradigm shattering moments can come from here, can come from here. But anyway, if you're dealing with people and you can tell they haven't woken up to TV and they sit themselves in front of it gladly, if they haven't woken up to, for instance, the deceptions of New Age or cults, or just there's a lot of deception there. If they haven't woken up to it, it just gives you a sense of where they're at. If they haven't woken up to the money system, even reality. And I'm not saying judge people. I'm not saying because they haven't woken up to this layer that they're stupid and blah, blah, blah. There are layers to this shit. And in each one of these layers, what I've put here, there's no way it covers the totality of all the information at each layer. When you wake up to all of the things in this education system, what it's been doing, there's a lot of rabbit holes to truly get the sense of what they've been doing. Then you start to sense how insidious what they're doing is, because they're doing it to our education system. Then you deep dive into that stuff and look at all there is to learn and discover. Alex Jones, he says they make the frogs gay, and he gets made fun of for it. And I'm not his fan, but this is what does it. This chemical right here. Anyway, there's just layers to this shit. And if you can tell somebody hasn't woken up to religion, you have a sense that they haven't reached that layer yet. But it also tells you a little bit more about where they're at. Because some of these, I wish I could rearrange these a little better. It just puts them in there alphabetically. Religion is this foundational thing that ties into beliefs, that ties into some of this subversive information shit. Our understanding of reality itself, religion, our beliefs, subversive information, as we go through each of these layers, because these motherfuckers don't want us to know the truth. When you start waking up to Jews, layers upon layers upon layers of all the things these people are into. I mean, that's a big layer. That's not basic waking up 101. You have to go through, I think, a handful of the layers and learn. You have to build yourself a foundation of knowledge that, gets you to the point where I think you're ready to handle having those beliefs challenged for a lot of people. For some people, it'll be easier than others. When it finally came across my radar of awareness in my mid-40s, early to mid-40s, it started to click pretty quick. It just hadn't been brought across my awareness in that way. And I start looking back at why. And it's just like, well, there were layers of awakening I had to go through before I could awaken to that, before I was ready to see that, because before I was capable of seeing that, because of the foundation of knowledge that gave me the eyes to see. You see what I'm saying? That's how it worked for me. It's not necessarily how it's going to work for everybody else. Some people might figure it out earlier. But when you consider the monumental task waking up is, and here again, I want to reiterate, I don't think I made the point yet, and if I did, sorry for repeating myself here, but what I've put in here is not the totality of everything that's going to be encountered at every layer. I just threw some shit in here because I wanted to give people a visual, illustrative type of representation for their mind to realize that waking up is not an easy thing. It encompasses a lot. Like it or lump it, these are the layers of it. I might have missed a couple. And there's certain things I wish I could tie together a little better, but they're separate enough that, and it's all, I have to put numbers in, and it rearranges things through numbers versus alphabet. I don't know how else to organize it. And there's a few ways I can get creative with it, but anyway, it's a fair enough illustration. And when you start looking at what there is to wake up to, it starts to reveal the layers of the beast system. It starts to reveal the layers of all the stuff that these people control. Seriously. I mean, when you think about, this is just the basics. This is just the basics. This is just the basics. Yeah, this shit here. Whoops. Should probably forget that one because it's already tied in there. Yeah. I mean, they tie into everything. And I probably should have it tied into history. And it's just like, holy fuck. But that's basically it. This is for like newbies. This is for people who are still in the awakening journey. So think about it. This is a process you'll probably go through multiple times. The layers, you'll go through your beliefs, reality itself. Think about it. There's all these, this is just some shit I thought up. What else is there that could go in there? What else would you consider in your awakening? Have you realized as part of this thing? Blues Farm, Hell Realm, Matrix, Beast System, whatever, Prison Planet, it all ties in. Simulation theory, aliens, there's probably a dozen things, a dozen minds that might be watching this. They're like, dude, you forgot all this. I'm just throwing some stuff in there just to give your mind something to wrap around when you look at this and say, like, look at all the stuff that are part of these layers of awakening. And some of these layers you're going to awaken to in parallel. And some of them are like, I've made the analogy, waking up, it's like comes in steps, it comes in phases, and you can't get to step 2 until you've gone through, processed, understood, and it's become a part of you in certain respects to layer 3. And then you do everything all over again at layer 3. There's a similar analogy for, some of these layers of awakening. Because until you understand, you could put in corporations in here as another big one and how they run the world and the billionaires. Or you could probably put that as a sub-layer of some of this stuff, maybe politics, possibly money, and some sub-layers about the control system, usury that implies debt slavery. And when you know that people don't know this stuff, it gives you a sense of where they're at from a knowledge level. That knowledge being the types of knowledge that would coincide with an awakened or an awakening human being. You see what I'm saying? If you're talking to the average fundamentalist Christian, as an example, or Muslim, whoever, but just somebody like that, very religiously minded, how much of this stuff do you think they're going to, there's layers to awakening. There's steps to this shit. And sometimes you've got to process it slowly and chew on it. So certain layers take longer. Think about it. What if you're a GMO eating, vax getting, or get your kids the vax, and you don't have the idea of what chemtrails are. You think it's all the same thing, and you drink tap water. There's layers of awakening. There's becoming aware of, well, where the fuck's the matrix, the B system, whatever. It's in there somewhere. Is it in front of my face here? B matrix? No. Anyway, so comment section's open. If there's any like major layers, I've got spirituality here, and then just some things. There's layers of spirituality. There's all kinds of rabbit holes in spirituality. There's all kinds of deception, where they're either gatekeepers or charlatans or something like that. Think of all the stuff that's tied into New Age. Think of all the stuff that's tied into cults. That's the place that people go to get the fuck away from religion. You know what I'm saying? Where they still want to find some meaning to life through some spiritual thing. And then all the stuff you got with religion. And this is just a handful of things I threw in there to illustrate quickly the corruption. These two are like demons. This shit's bad, man. It's all fucked up. The whole thing. And then this whole concept of the human enslavement, waking up to that ties into government. That ties into money. That ties into, who's that? Oh, Jews. See what I'm saying? There's layers of awakening. And then they control Hollywood, as society. This is where you get into social engineering. This is where you get into, well, hang on. How they control the human herd. And when you look at these things, these are all things that Jews control. This is all the shit that they control. And when you understand how deep the tentacles of each of these go into our societies, into our minds, our beliefs, our perceptions, when you start to dig into who's in control of these perversions and toxic influences of the developing minds of children, who's responsible for that? I don't know. Who's responsible for the social engineering? Where does all that come from? And then look at all the ties that the social engineering has into all the various layers. That who controls that? Who controls that? Oh, what do they do? What are they? The breaking up of the family unit? Yep, that's them. Caustic subversive influence. Everybody that understands what subversion is, Yuri Bezmenov's stuff, the way he explained how communism does what it does. Well, there you go. And effectively, to the degree that you see what they've done over the last 4 years and how they got everybody marching in lockstep for at least, solid year after 2020, a little longer maybe. This shit is bad. The propaganda and mind control machinery that they use. This stuff gets deep. Mind control, indoctrination of children. This shit gets deep. I could go into hours and hours and hours showing you, some of these notes that I've got and go real deep into this. But it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and people have to be interested. And I don't think there's enough people that are truly awakened that care enough. It's just what I think based off of what I see. If somehow that proves itself to be wrong, then, well, it does. But when you start looking at the layers of how they control the human herd, how all these things tie in together, and then, Each one of these notes goes into details of what all of these things are, how they affect us, how they affect society, how they affect the mind, how they affect development, how it affects society. That's what I've got in here. That's what I'm populating this with, because this is like a map of a thought of controlling the human herd. And when you just start tying it all together, who controls all this shit? Where does this stuff start tying back to? Who are all the people that control all this shit? Who controls and influences all this shit? All of it. All of it. I mean, it's all overtly satanic. Rock and roll, I need a connection there. Social engineering, that's pretty evil. Social media, I can't say it's overtly satanic, but who controls all this shit? I mean, when you look at what these institutes or schools or whatever, what they do using these types of things as one example, or as many examples, to socially engineer using cultural subversion, ideological subversions. I mean, when you start looking at this shit, it's like, holy fuck me, Agnes. Negative societal influence and development on the developing child's mind. Look at all these things that go through the eyes and the ears of a lot of developing children, experiences that they have, this kind of shit, the caustic subversive influences could be the toxic family units. Just think about it. This is very general, but anybody that knows what I'm talking about knows what I mean. There's a lot of information that the newly awakened people need to give them a better picture. This gives you a visual, plus, like I said, I've got information in a lot of this stuff. I mean, this is the type of stuff that people haven't been taught. Mind control, what's going on there, political propaganda, agenda and narrative pushing. I mean, when you start really getting into, how do you teach people? How the fuck do you get people to understand what the hell's actually been done to them? It's a really challenging thing. You know how you can get people to really understand what's been done to them? If you can get them to understand the non-physical components. Hold on. All this stuff I've been talking about relevant to this know thyself stuff, because it's all of these components of us that comprise all the non-physical stuff that they've actually been going after. That this is exactly what the fuck they've been going after. They've been going after the non-physical stuff, and they've also been going after the energy components of us. And when you look at the way the human body is comprised, the non-physical components of us, it starts to open up a can of worms of what we don't know. Therefore, I've been flapping my flap for 5 or so years now about all this non-physical stuff, because this non-physical stuff is part of the human design. When you start looking at this, well, there can be spiritual warfare that takes place in the astral realm. There can be spiritual warfare that takes place in the etheric. What is your mental body, and how does that affect you? We don't understand this. They do. That's why they use and have developed all the tools they've used, or they developed and used, to go after the mind, the emotion, the energy. I mean, people don't get it. People don't understand themselves enough to know. And then, well, virtues. This is where I was showing people higher faculties, higher aspects of mind. And unfortunately, these are some of the least watched videos on my channel. People don't understand. People don't care. This is what makes people better, higher quality, higher level of existence, higher level of consciousness, higher quality being, quite literally by the very virtue of utilizing these things and, not being a cancer among the world. And then when you start getting into humans that are actually on an evolutionary path, at least to the degree that they can affect that in this life, to live in a decent world and to be a decent and a good human being, you got to work on aspects of this stuff to develop and cultivate yourself throughout your life. I don't know if anybody ever taught this to people. I mean, maybe some churchy people or religious-y stuff, but it's not in a religious context. Religiousy. That's a fucking intelligent word. At least when I do that, when I'm recording, I can make fun of myself and at least pick up, recognize it. It's just, sometimes the words that come out of my mouth are a little weird. Anyway, hang on a second here. So, as I've been telling people, this know thyself stuff is it's really important. And when you really get into stuff like this, if I was to take you guys into a deep dive, which at some point in the future I might, when you start getting into the actual meat and potatoes, and you start to really understand the gravity, for instance, of what I have here, but it's just more, now you have a visual representation when I'm talking to be able to look at how all this stuff, a lot of it ties together and paints a much bigger picture. So let me get back to where the hell I started. Okay, back to the layers of awakening. So there's a lot going on here. I should figure out a way to put on classes for the newly awakened. Maybe call it a expedited awakening class that will provide people nutrient-dense information about aspects of the layers of awakening. Who knows? Maybe. You never know. It's never been profitable to tell people the truth or teach people the truth, so it's probably just a pipe dream. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot just in the stuff that I threw in here. If I had 5 or 6 of my awakened subscribers and we were all sitting around a table shitting or talking shit about this and throwing ideas on the table, say, let's look at this to create like a comprehensive map for people that if they stumble upon it, they can look at it and get a sense of, okay, people that have been awakened for 20 years suggest that these are the various layers of awakening that I should concern myself with and the information contained within until I reach a point of saturation where I'm like, okay, I get it now and move on kind of thing. And based off of what's contained in each of these layers, for some of it, it gets pretty deep. For some of it takes kind of a while to process through it all. You go through these paradigm shattering moments. You have to reform your understanding. All of this implies you're doing a lot of your own self-development as far as knowledge and learning, feeding your mind, and gaining your own eyes to see. You see what I mean? Why some of us awaken and others don't, I don't know. I know what some of the catalyst things appear to be. Again, with a lot of people, or just putting a lot more time into it. I could come up with, Kundalini experience, that'll tend to wake up the consciousness. Shamanic experiences tend to do the same thing. Both can have tremendous negative impacts on your life if you're not prepared or whatever. Spiritual experiences can do it. There's all kinds of different ways everybody's going to reach those catalyst moments, but not everybody reaches the catalyst moment is what I'm talking about, where they can look back and be like, holy shit, yeah, I woke the fuck up. From time to time, I talk to people who are like, no, I've kind of always been awake. And okay, but there's a lot of people who weren't. And in as much as I've been seeing any patterns in it, most of the people that were asleep that recognized that they have awakened, it's generally come through something in this category. Usually, it's these two. Usually it's these two. Every once in a while I find somebody that's awake and it's like, oh, well, you're just fucking smart and fucking figured shit out. Because you started reading books and educating yourself and shit that a lot of people don't fucking take it upon themselves to do. And for anybody that's, aware, when you get into things relevant to government, and this is just, again, just what I could throw in there. You start getting into the layers of the enslavement, the manipulation, the straw man stuff, how they've taken us off the land, how they've created this maritime admiralty thing. When you start to see how that system of enslavement ties back into the fucking money system and the Jews, back to the Vatican as well. There's layers. I could have put that in there for religion and I didn't. Vatican. This is what I mean. Just because this looks simple and, oh, that's not that bad. Oh no, there's a lot involved. And as I've looked back on 20 years, I'm like, damn, I started to realize that you could call these like containers or layers. And like I said, the first one is consciousness, beliefs, self. Sometimes they can kind of happen at different times. First, expanding, or your consciousness awakes, fires up in a way that now you're no longer at NPC level, even though you're a babe. You just woke up. You're no longer like an NPC or the bipedal herd animal or whatever. At that point, then, these things, you start looking at yourself. You start maybe thinking about things about reality. You start seeing the various systems. You start maybe asking questions about your belief or hear some schmuck like me explain it to you. And you're like, holy shit, maybe I should. And then that's a can of worms. Because they've been filling our heads with shit through indoctrination, propaganda, school systems, just all of the ways in which they've been doing that. Now, here's the thing. This is super, super fucking important to understand. Hold on a second. Why this is so important. Okay, I gotta navigate through this. Why this is so important. Because when you look at what mind actually is, and you consider what's in conscious mind, and then you consider what's in subconscious mind, in the degree that these non-physical components of mind, which is non-physical, and the beliefs, the perceptions, and everything else, our psyches, our personalities, what drives our asses, our emotions, our feelings, our urges, all of this shit. Do you understand what these people know about these components of us? And it's because they know about these components of us in the vehicle of mind. It's because they know about all that shit that they developed and built all of this. I mean, think about it. It's because of what they know about all that stuff that they developed all of this and all of the tactics and strategies and tools. Think about it. When you have all the money, you have the ability to do all that. Buy it, build it, whatever. And when I say build it, you're paying to have it built, but you're effectively building it. So, yeah, there's a lot to learn, boys and girls. There's a lot to learn.